Okay. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And a roll call.
Mr. Anderson?
Here.
John.
Mr. David? Mr. Phil Metzger?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Schatzma? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. LaSalle?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Approval of the minutes.
They can't see it.
I assume everybody's gotten the, received a copy of the minutes and has had a chance to read those?
No.
Nope.
This one?
Okay. We have one person that has not
Debbie,
received.
do you have another copy? Because
Still yours.
Blaine didn't have one.
Is it it? Oh.
All right, well, let's go ahead and, thank you. Let's go ahead and approve the minutes. You have a motion for that?
A motion.
Okay, second?
Yes, please.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry. Who moved?
Opposed? Abstained? Minutes are approved. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight and hope you had a good summer break. I know for myself, I had to replace a roof on the house. That was a great project, and but everything came through okay. So we're good on that.
Did you do it yourself?
Well, I had help. I just wanted to recognize John Lewis for the great work he's done as the interim Public Works Director, and he's been a very busy director, and we appreciate your work, John. Yeah.
You get any sleep at night?
A little bit, yeah.
Very
A little bit. Blaine, I thought you were going to go on. You know that's permanent now, don't you?
What's that?
You know that I've been named the Public Works Director.
Oh, you have been.
Well, congratulations.
I did not receive that.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
That's official Friday, I think.
Wondered why you were wearing that white shirt and tie tonight.
Yeah. So you're buying beer afterwards? Is that the deal?
Somebody told me that there was some kind of a policy like this, but they couldn't show it to me in writing. But I'd be happy to do something like that.
And well, we as a committee have a lot of work ahead of us in the balance of 2012. The Jug Handle, Arch Bridge, TSP, a lot of things going on, and so we just roll up our sleeves and really appreciate you all being a part of this committee and all the work you're doing. So, okay.
So there's some things that aren't on the agenda they were last minute and kind of just culminating what emails I could get through to kind of add to the agenda. So I did want to talk about a couple of extra items that aren't on the agenda. Can I go through them and you let me know if that's okay with you, Blaine?
Sure.
So I wanted to acknowledge some help I got from First City Cycle last week while I was out on my mountain bike, and that will be short. But Holcomb Boulevard, I wanted to talk a little bit about the paving project that we've been doing along Holcomb because haven't had much of a chance to talk to this group about that work. Shortly touch on the McLaughlin Boulevard Phase 2 meeting that we had yesterday with a whole slew of people from ODOT and other consultants, project team members, and this Oregon City Westland Bridge Sharrows. Is that on the agenda? It's not on the agenda either. So that came up recently, and I just want to make sure we can talk about that and get some buy-in from the committee. I need to talk about ODOT passenger rail, Eugene to Portland, and I wanted to talk about the 99E pedestrian bridge structural review that we're doing. That was something that Paul Edgar brought before the committee a couple meetings ago, and just wanted to let you know where we're at with that. So
What was that last one?
it's the 99E. There's a pedestrian bridge
Yes.
near Kenema. And-
That's on the agenda.
oh, that one is?
Yes.
Yes.
And the other two are loose handouts at your task surface.
Oh, good. Yeah, the 99E. So I'm not adding, I know that's a lot of items to add, but it's been a long summer.
We'll forgive you this time. Are there any objections to those additions?
Fine.
Okay, good. All right, citizens' comments. Looks like we have no one up to bat for that, so we'll move forward.
We're using a new system tonight.
Okay.
We're using more, and if you'll look on your screens,
Mhm.
she put in the name of a speaker, and if you keep on the floor, if you select on the floor, whatever item it is current, you will see it there, and then you will see any speakers listed for that item. Okay, so I'm happy to give just a quick demonstration of the new system, your packets, the electronic packet mandate, pretty much, from our city commission, and why we're doing what we're doing. So if you oblige me just a couple moments.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so as you know, you've always received paper copy packets, and about 3 years ago, the City Commission developed as one of its goals, as you can see on the wall over there, goal number 1, to build a sustainable future. And so, part of the reason that we are moving into the electronic packet age is to reduce a lot of the paper waste that comes with so many packets. And just for the City Commission alone, it was close to 100,000 copies of paper a year, not to mention all the the time it takes to make those copies, and all that comes with paper. So we've reduced it greatly. Our leases on our copy machines have gone down in cost. All kinds of good things have happened. And so the City Commission took the lead on that. They've been doing this since about 2008. And we're moving now to encourage all the boards and commissions to go electronic as well. So they no longer receive their packets by paper. We email out the link to the website where you can access your information. And I think Kathy's been doing that already. And so tonight is sort of a practice. I know you have some hard copies there, but you also have right in front of you on your monitors all of the entire packet. And we can kind of go through there a little bit and show you how to access that information. So if you move over to, well, let me back up. When an item comes up on the agenda, Kathy will, we call it time stamping it, and then it will appear on the floor there. That will be the active item. And if there are documents associated with that, then your little document window in the very lower left-hand corner will appear, not grayed out, and you'd be able to touch that and then access all of your documents right there. You also can access them at home via the website as well. So you always have access to that information as long as you are electronic at home. If there are issues that way, then be sure to let Kathy know and she can accommodate you. But we are trying to reduce the amount of paper copies that we use. So far, our Planning Commission, our Urban Renewal Commission, our Natural Resource Committee, our Historic Review Board, and the City Commission have all moved into the electronic packets. So we're trying to encourage the other ones as well. So that's that. And then tonight is another little test for, before I actually show you on the monitors, another little test for the timer. So If you could just hit the speaker timer there and maybe select 3 minutes or something, and then start. You'll see if you do have a speaker before you speaking, then the timer comes on and it counts down for, as you can see on your monitor, for how much time is being used. And then another feature in here, which is brand new, is this monitor up on the wall. And it is not working this evening. We're not quite ready to launch it yet, but up on the wall will also be the timer so that the public can see, as well as the electronic voting, which is launched as well. So we weren't quite ready during your minutes. We were going to give it a quick trial, but we weren't quite ready to do that yet this evening. But I just wanted to show you how you can see the name of the speaker, and then if there were more speakers listed, they would be listed next in line. And then when one person was done, then the other would, Kathy would call them.
You're down to 2 minutes. If you're in.
So anyway, there's the speaker, the timer, and the electronic voting. So those are the 3 new things, as well as just accessing your packet from these monitors. So do you have any questions about how to access them? I'd be happy to explain that as we go along. Maybe when you get to the next item where there's actually some documents, I'll come around and show you so that you can access those.
Nancy, is there a bell that goes off when you get?
Well, actually, there is a bell.
Okay.
There is a bell. We haven't, like I said, we haven't gotten this going yet, but it's ready. We just haven't had a chance to test it out. So
So it will be visual to the speaker also.
Yes.
There is actually the little clock in front of you, the little box.
Right there? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
this is a timer
Oh,
right there.
okay.
So the public that's sitting there can also
Okay.
see that countdown, as well as those sitting in the audience will be able to see it on the screen. So
Chair also has a gavel.
That's right.
Out of time.
All on the wrist.
And don't hesitate to, even if someone is speaking and you're ready to move on with the meeting, you can just kind of tap the top of the timer and say, please summarize. That way it gives them a chance to finish what they're saying. The average is about 45 seconds. That when someone is speaking, you hear them for 45 seconds, and I mean, this is just in general. If someone wants to communicate something, the best way to do it is 45 seconds.
Please summarize.
But
I think our
not
alarm-
always, right? Not always.
Did our alarm go off?
No.
You were.
No, it's not working this evening.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we're not set for that.
I was looking forward to that.
So anyway, the next item that you do go to then will be one that we can look up your documents on your
Great.
monitors.
So let's move on to new business. Thank you, Nancy. Appreciate that. That's helpful. Access issues at 107 Malala Avenue. And John, it looks like you're going to be taking the lead on that.
Right, so there's a series of emails in there, and this discussion came up, and I just thought I asked Kathy to add it to the agenda so that we could, so that you would know that the conversation happened and that the request came from a new business at Malala. There, this address is really Malala and Division, Big Dog Coffee. There's a 2-story coffee shop right there on the corner of right across from the. The muffler shop there. It used to be the muffler shop. What's the rental? Who do we rent to?
Radiator?
Is it Transmission? Yeah, Radiator. Anyway, right there on that corner.
Across from Eastham.
Yes,
Crash.
yes, across from Eastham. So, that's a fairly new business. Previous business owner struggled there as well. This business owner seems a lot more aggressive about marketing and kind of making their business work, and they get a lot of traffic along Malala Avenue. I don't know if you would remember, but I remember very well that we, when that property developed and they added that building, we added a center median along Malala Boulevard just to prevent the kind of thing that we see happening down on 10th and Main at the coffee shop down near Railroad Avenue, or not Railroad Avenue, but where Singer Hill comes down the hill, the Dutch Brothers Coffee. Same kind of problem where people are wanting to turn across a two-lane stripe there and in an area of congestion. And so there's a median there right now, and it prevents that. And the property owner was wondering if we could remove that, or not the property owner, but the business owner was asking if we could remove that. And so we met with them, looked at that a little harder. There's some pictures that you can take. The other thing we were looking at is there an opportunity to convert that short little segment of Division Street to two-way, and it's just so narrow through there. And so anyway, there really wasn't a good solution given today's configuration of those streets. They were encouraged about the idea of adding a roundabout there. They didn't know that project was in our transportation system plan. So they'd like us to hurry up and get that roundabout done, but
That was a low priority one, though, a project, wasn't it?
it was a lower priority project, right? One that I think we should, as a community, talk about, because I kind of feel like that should be a little higher priority project. But anyway,
The roundabout you're talking
the
about?
roundabout.
That's a massive engineering undertaking, isn't it? All those.
It will be challenging because of the grades across
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Not to say that we don't take on challenging projects, though, so we're not necessarily afraid of that. But so anyway, I think the property owner was pleased that we considered it and spent the time to talk to him about it. And I just wanted to bring you up to speed in case that topic came up. I also shared it with the Berkeley Hills Neighborhood Association, so that their contacts would be aware that we had the conversation, because it's right on the edge of their neighborhood.
A technical question. I'm trying to move the document so I can see the lower half of the page. And I'm looking at the bar over here on the right-hand side. I don't know if you touched something or what. It's not happening. I'll move that up. Yeah, that's the one I was in. Right.
Can I
Okay.
ask John a question?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So, John, was the business owner placated by your visit with him, or did he want further action prior to the roundabout? or-
Actually, the business owner didn't show up for the meeting, but his manager did. So we had a conversation. I shared all that information with him, and then followed up that I'd be happy to meet with the business owner if he wanted to reschedule. I didn't hear back from them. So the manager seemed pleased that to learn some of the things. He was also a longtime Oregon City resident, so he's pretty familiar with that intersection and why some of the concerns that we have are real concerns. So.
Well, I noticed that the business owner stated that he knew about it before he ever opened up, so,
That's true, too.
yeah. Okay.
That's a challenging corner.
It really is.
Yeah, the first time I went there for coffee, I had to go, gee, I don't even know how I got there. Quite a challenge.
Well, if you're headed northbound, it's really, they pick up a lot of traffic northbound, more than many. So
Well, I know also early morning, I've seen people going south and kind of go around the easement and get in the other lane and turn in the driveway, which I know is illegal. but-
Should be a little longer, that, isn't it?
Yes,
Because they see him come out of there and go up the hill.
right.
And Division Street can't be two-way because the TriMet takes the whole road when they come around there, so.
So, John, are you looking for any action, or is this just information?
information.
Any other questions about the Big Dog Coffee? You'll keep us updated on that and as things progress. So, okay, let's move on to the transportation system plan.
All right, so we've included another chapter of the transportation system plan. I think the main reason for this item on your agenda is because at the last meeting that we had before we broke for summer, John suggested that we work on either a subcommittee basis or have some kind of a more work session specific to the TSP. We've had these stakeholder advisory committee meetings and technical advisory committee meetings. In fact, there's another one Thursday. But there's nothing. I think John's recommendation, as I now understand it, makes a lot of sense. In that, as a committee, it'd be nice to have an official recommendation from the committee to adopt with modifications the transportation system plan. We're getting close to that, so that's something that I think needs to be scheduled, and it's just a matter of scheduling that. I think that was the reason for this item to be on your agenda tonight.
Thank you.
Has there been a date that's been recommended at this point?
That would probably have been a good thing, don't you think? We didn't, though. I don't remember us actually setting a date. Do you?
Could we do it at our next meeting?
Use the entire meeting for TSU?
A portion of it?
That's an option. We've got that. We do have that time in our TSP adoption schedule.
John, what was your original intent? Was that to have an off camera?
It didn't make any difference. I mean, your work session will probably be on camera too, but not to have plenty of time so that people can. It's a huge document, and it's complex, and one section affects the next section and the next, and just have a good dialogue about it so that we, as the committee that's supposed to know about the transportation plan, know what's in it and are accepting it and recommending it with or without any tweaks. So, I mean, I've been to a number of the stakeholder meetings, and there's just a lot to cover there. I would say we could easily use the 2 hours on it, assuming that's an interest of the other committee members. But I think it makes sense to spend the time on it.
And, just in terms of room availability and schedule availability, I do think that if we could do it at our next meeting and dedicate pretty much that entire meeting, we can invite the consultant to be at that meeting. There's been a fair amount of presentation material already on this, so, if you're looking for presentation material, you could get that from the video that's been already recorded, because each of those meetings is recorded. So I guess I'm thinking more of a discussion, aren't you, John?
Correct. I would think that all the committee members would need to get an electronic copy of this well in advance of that meeting so they can start chewing on it, even if some of the memos are still in draft form, so that they can start reading that and generating any questions they might have.
Yeah. At one point in time, the committee pretty much wholesale committed to kind of wanting to review that document, and if that's a big undertaking.
It is.
So I'm not, it might make sense for us to, go right to Chapter 9, for instance, where the recommendations are at, and direct you to that chapter and look hard at that list and look hard at those maps, and then come prepared to talk about those. And then if you have questions about how we got those projects, I think that would be great for the consultant, Carl Singer from DKS to respond to. So, and at some point we need to probably bring you a draft resolution as well, or not a resolution, but something that you can vote on. And
I think that, if you'd send us some guidelines like you're proposing verbally here on how to best get our hands around it, that would be helpful. You can just send that out with an email that transmits the electronic copy.
Okay. So, I don't know if you want to actually get consensus on next meeting being the one, or
Well, I think it's a good recommendation. I really like the idea of focusing on Memorandum 9, and that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. That the end game, if you will, and I think that's something that we should really look at and say, is this what we recommend and what we support? And so I'm very open to that. And anybody else have any input on that?
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I agree.
actually Chapter 9, or it's not Chapter 9, it's technical memo number
Memo
9
9.
is in your packet. The one thing I like about this in electronic form, if you have the ability to review it on electronic form, the maps are.
That's 11.
This is 11.
We have 11, yeah.
It's the financially constrained projects, the ones that we have in the packet.
Well, that's actually. Then I was just off by the memo. That's a good memo to review, John.
And that lists out what
That
all
lists
the different,
all
yeah,
the projects and which ones are funded.
which ones are it prioritizes them in terms of high, medium, and low.
And so I guess it's chapter 11, John, I was thinking of. And I guess my point was the maps, as they show up in 8.5 by 11 format, are really hard to read. But in electronic form, in a PDF, you can actually zoom in on those and really kind of study them if you have that ability. They're nice maps, nice tools. The other thing I'll point out about this chapter, which is kind of planned versus financially constrained. Planned to me sounds like we're planning to fund them. Financially constrained sounds like we're not. It's exactly the opposite. Financially constrained is what they see, dollars for funding, and the planned are just those projects that are still projects, but they're not. There's not a funding source identified during the term of the study.
John, at the last stakeholders meeting, we had a conversation about adding a couple of columns to this, talk about the ranking or whatever that was, and then the dollar amount for the project. And will Carl have that done by the time we would be sitting down? Because that would be real useful for this committee to have
So
that.
if we could get that, then
Yeah.
that would be even better. Can you note that, Kathy, so we can make sure? We should ask Carl right away, because I don't know that it's done. Last presentation that we had was for the Planning Commission, City Commission joint meeting, and they didn't have it ready by then. But that would be nice to
Let's
have.
give them 3 weeks anyway before our next meeting to get it out to the committee in advance.
Yeah.
Well, the next stakeholders meeting is Thursday.
That's true. Yeah.
We might have
I
it by
noticed they
then.
changed the time to 5:30, so it's a half hour earlier than usual. Gives us more time to eat the food.
Okay, so go
It
ahead,
says
Ken.
new time 6 o'clock.
I think there's.
Yeah, she sent out a notice about 6 o'clock. Note the new time and a revised agenda, 6 o'clock p.m.
Oh, so it's still a 6 o'clock start?
Yeah. She sent this out at 4:55 p.m.
Today.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we're in agreement. Our next TAC meeting in November will be focused
October.
on October. Just thank you. Will be focused on the TSP Tech Memo 11. Okay.
I guess I should acknowledge Commissioner Kathy Roth is in your audience. I chastised her on the way down here, and I'm assuming that's why you came by. I was kidding, actually, but I'm glad you're here. All right, next item.
All right. McLaughlin neighborhood. Stop sign request.
Nancy, can I help you?
Let's see.
Get out of here.
So this
About
is really kind of informational, but the neighborhood has approached the city commission a couple times on this topic, and the McLaughlin neighborhood would like to see more of a pedestrian corridor created along 6th Street from really the High Street and where you might come off the elevator and cross through the neighborhood all the way up to Carnegie Center. And so one of the concerns is that we striped the crosswalks there at 6th and John Adams, and we didn't, at the time we elected not to put stop signs in there. And I think a lot of that was a decision that Nancy, the city engineer, made at the time because we'd had an engineered study that suggested maybe we didn't need those. I've come around and thought a fair amount about that particular concern and just observed that location. And while I don't think it's a safety concern, it's definitely a confusing concern. So we see a lot of people stopping there whether they need to or not. So I guess I'm advocating for stop signs to go ahead and go in there. My main reason, and normally we would go ahead and just put in stop signs, but this one, kind of the route at which it came before the City Commission without coming to the Transportation Advisory Committee, I thought I wanted to bring it to you folks so that you could think about it and share your thoughts on this topic, and then hopefully get consensus that that's the right direction for us to go. And that way I have, that helps balance out a engineer's report that suggests maybe they're not needed with input from the manager of the Carnegie or the library. We've got input from the Pioneer Center manager. We did get some input from the fire department, and their thoughts on that were that any stop sign slows us down a little bit, but they also didn't really hold too tight to that position. They weren't necessarily wanting to be contrary to what the neighborhood might want. So I think that combined with my own kind of review of that, and then I guess the other thing, there's a map that's shown in here that shows other intersections, and I don't know that it's that easy to read, but to me it kind of helped establish that we haven't necessarily been 100% consistent with our four-way stops in that neighborhood, and we've got a couple others that kind of make a lot less sense than this particular location. So I feel like it's a good compromise and something that will help the neighborhood with activity. The other thing is we've had so many events up there, and with the spray park, it just, I don't know, it's kind of come down to it makes sense to me. So
that's at the corner of 6th and John Adams, which is the library, the Unitarian Church, and the Irma Tinger House
and
Pioneer Center.
That's right.
A lot of kids, a lot of activity in those areas, and I think that's a...
I don't know if we could get a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we do put those signs in there.
No,
No?
no, that's okay.
All right.
But
You want to try it?
yes, we're gonna.
I'm going to try this. You're going to vote.
No, don't vote.
We're going to try electronic voting, and you want a stop sign here? Can we do it both ways?
This is great. It's the last day to actually vote. I hope did y'all drop your ballots in the ballot box?
Man, this is
Fred Wallace.
tough.
No, you don't need to do that.
Okay, here we are, the pictures.
Oh, so I don't know why. Oh, you motioned? Okay. Did someone hit the second?
I'm looking for the
Okay.
first.
Where's the,
Okay.
I'll second it.
We're just doing a test tonight on this voting system.
Okay, I see
don't know
Fred.
why it's just not showing up. So
You know, the motion,
on the floor?
the motion text is wrong. I'm hitting it again.
Motion to approve.
Where's Fred Flintstone?
Yeah, it's a motion. The motion text is wrong.
Second, and they should have put Steve's name down because he seconded.
White marbles and black marbles.
Just go ahead and put it in, John. We'll get around to approving it here.
Okay. Just do it regular tonight by voice.
On the
Did we hear a motion?
We heard Fred moved.
And we got a second. Oh, okay.
I think it was Steve that seconded it.
I second it.
Because this is where it is.
And maybe we can get future requests come straight to you folks, and that way City Commission doesn't get kind of bogged down with that extra time and keeps their meetings reasonable. And
We call the roll. think they usually just say aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thanks, John, for that. Okay. So was that recorded electronically or?
Not yet.
Yeah, we would have
No,
to
ever
push a
since we
button.
installed the monitors,
Okay.
it did something to the
All right.
voting, and so this was a test tonight to see if it was still working.
Only a test.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yeah, that's right.
We
No, there's
certainly
Fred
do.
move. I got that Fred move.
Yeah, I know, but
Okay.
it wasn't popping up on their screens.
Okay.
One person did.
All right, let's move on to trolley usage.
It is?
Yeah.
So, it's, Kathy's telling me this is a carryover, which is good, because I was not really sure what,
Bob LaSalle asked about what he considered to be.
Well, I was hoping they'd maybe be able to make further use of the trolley
Right.
with the downtown parking limitations, but then I found out that it doesn't have any heating or air conditioning, and so it certainly wouldn't be very practical in the winter.
And actually, I talked to the code enforcement manager, and she's also in charge of the parking division, and she said it's not necessarily that, and she agreed to come to the next meeting if you would like her to do that. But we didn't get an answer. I didn't get the question to her in time, and we didn't get an answer for this meeting. So,
so we want to bring it to you next meeting, essentially,
Well, yeah, if there's any possible further use of those trolleys
right?
than what they're being used for now.
Right, we've actually seen some suggestions from that from other city commissioners, so that's fairly hot topic right now, and we may have a little bit more to report to you next month. So I don't think your suggestion is out of the ordinary in any way, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to pursue it further, yeah.
All right.
wait.
Nope. Oh. Does anybody?
John's in something over there.
I just hit the button saying I requested to speak. So,
Yeah. And
so my comment was simply, if we're going to
what do we
focus.
do?
He just denied.
So then Chair Meyer acknowledges him.
Yeah. Chair, it is now, but Chair Meyer is half blind, so this is now I see it. So we're good. All right.
Okay, so if we're going to try to focus primarily on the transportation plan next time, maybe we should go 2 months before we bring the trolley information back. If
Yeah,
we-
right.
Yes.
That's all.
Good suggestion.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
give you a written update on that.
Well, either way,
In the
because
packet.
the trolley is out of service for the year now anyway, I believe. So
Yeah.
we have plenty of time
To discuss
for
it.
future planning.
Okay. Yeah. You're right.
Okay.
And then upcoming events, I believe, is just information for your. Although we should, I guess, if it's about the Arch Bridge, we should talk through this.
Yeah, and I had multiple things on there. So, do you get to see the report at all? Have you seen, how do you see the report? Oh, I guess. Yeah, and that's one attachment, but there's also a staff report. And I'm not saying that there's much in there.
It's not in the packet either.
Yes, it is. I'm not saying there's much in there, but I just have a list of things I wanted to
Talk through.
bring
okay.
to their attention.
The 4 events.
Yeah, and it's not on the screen.
I think Betty. This is on behalf of Betty's request, isn't it?
One of them is, yes.
So Kathy, you were going to give an update on the Arch Bridge. John is going to give a
Right, so I can give a short update on that. So the bridge is still scheduled to open on the 15th, which is a Monday morning. They'll open it early, what I understand, 4 a.m. But preceding that, Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday, there's several events planned on the bridge and on Main Street. So I've heard kind of a street fair, if you will, some artistic interests, lots of business interests, food and music. I hear there's a wedding on the bridge, and there's dedication. Two weddings?
I think so.
Really? Okay.
Really?
Anybody going to jump?
Nobody's going to jump. Nobody's going to jump.
Are you volunteering?
So anyway, there is a piece of, more details on that. It's basically being organized by the Willamette Falls Festival 2012, and they've got all kinds of things listed here. Geocache Challenge, which is basically finding. I think that's all about following clues to find little tokens. Business showcases, March of the Bands, Oregon City and Westland High School bands. Anyway, that information's in your packet, and we just want you to be aware of that.
The Funathlon is going to be an interesting. It starts at Clackamas Park, and there's going to be a 5K run around through Gladstone and then across the Ped Bridge through the Cove and back to the Clackamas, and then they're going to jump on bicycles and head down Main Street and then across the Arch Bridge and out to what's the name of that baseball park out in Willamette? I can't remember the name, but then they'll come back, so that's like 13 or 14K.
All right.
And then they'll jump on kayaks and I believe go up to the falls and back. But Jim Austin, I believe he's with Clackamas County Tourism, but he's doing a great job putting that together and integrating, the Boy Scouts and some of the police cadets, and so it should be a great event.
Any state officials going to be there, John? No?
Yeah, the governor won't, but the director of Oregon Department of Transportation, I think, is scheduled to be there. No?
What are we talking about?
The bridge ceremony.
Well, you're talking about the jug handle.
No.
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 No, okay.
He's talking about the bridge.
Yeah, he's going to be at the.
Okay, he's also going to be at the jug handle opening.
I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure about I'm certain about the bridge opening.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, it'll be a good event. Hope everybody can turn out for that. And
So then the other events that Kathy listed that aren't showing up on your screen evidently is on September 26th at 8 p.m. we have the Singer Falls relighting event that's going to be flipping of the switch for the lighting that's started. It's already this weekend. We installed part of the lighting in the falls themselves, so we will. That'll be an interesting event. It's after the farmers market. What I understand from the farmers market, they're still going to close down at 7, but there's a couple of food vendors, and the music will continue, and people will be able to gather down there. And the first 100 people that show up will receive a small LED flashlight that says "Relight Singer Falls 2012." So if you get there early, you might get one of those.
nice.
And should be a good event.
What was that date again?
That's September 26th,
6th.
8 p.m. Kathy's listed October 19th, 2012 as the Oregon City High School Homecoming Parade. So there's definitely road closures associated with that. If you are a commuter, it's usually right during the commuting hour and has a tendency to create some havoc. I think, Betty, wasn't that
I
last
did,
year's
yeah,
event that you got kind of stuck in?
Yeah, going
so
up 7th to Lynn. It was like
See.
closed.
Got no excuses at this year.
Nope.
And then October 24th, 10 a.m., the grand opening of the Jug Handle project. That'll be our third kind of grand opening event for that project, but it'll be the third and last, and that'll be the big one. That'll be the one that, again, are you saying that? Are you saying,
And the governor can't attend, but Matt Garrett, the ODOT director, I guess Scott would know who he is. He would be Scott's chief boss, and he's going to speak. And actually, everybody we requested to speak is going to be there. Merkley, Schrader, Hunt, Carlotta Colette from Metro. They're all going to be there.
Nice.
10.
10?
And you'll send notices out to.
Yeah, we're just. That's a save the date. No, warning. That's a save.
Good enough. Any other upcoming events? My birth? No, I'm just kidding.
Christmas?
Merry Christmas, yeah, Thanksgiving. All
My
right.
wife's birthday.
99E footbridge evaluation.
So, I just wanted to mention that we had a citizen comment from that was from Paul Edgar about that pedestrian bridge that runs parallel to 99E between really kind of South Second and more like Kanema neighborhood, and it's a wooden structure. To be quite honest with you, I didn't realize it was ours until we started complaining about it and talked to ODOT about it, and they said, "Oh, by the way, that's your bridge. We built it many years ago, but the agreement was that you would take responsibility for that bridge." So my staff and myself have looked at that bridge. It does have some deficiencies, but we don't think it's unsafe. But because the Kanema neighborhood is interested in seeing improvements to that, we're reaching out to a structural consultant to give us kind of a letter appraisal or appraisal of that structure and maybe some recommendations in more of a letter format. Not a formal structural study. He's not going to be doing much in the way of calculations, but more just kind of appraising the condition of that bridge and if there's things that we can take on. And none of that's budgeted, so right now we haven't budgeted for the improvements. We really didn't budget for the study either, but we think we can get that done for a couple $1,000s, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And then with the idea in mind that if there were recommendations for improvements there, that we could put them in the budget and probably have some reasonable conceptual level cost estimates for what it might take us if we had to do some design work, or if we had, or to do the actual construction work as well.
So a letter study, is that basically a visual?
Yeah, it's a structural engineer who's got some great field experience. He can go out and take a look at it, take some pictures, and provide us some written comments on his assessment of that bridge.
Okay. Okay, and has Mr. Edgar been updated on that as well?
He hasn't. He has not. So we'll need to do that. But
okay. Another issue that I know Paul is particularly interested in, the downtown Oregon City parking information.
So, Kathy, this is information based on, help me out here. Are these the facts that you put together recently, Kathy?
Yeah, I put together a fact sheet, and then there's also information that went to the city commission.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a follow-up. And I'm trying to put together a fact sheet. I guess somebody asked me to do that. And so I drafted one. So the draft downtown parking facts, and I distributed it in-house and asked people to make comments on it. But I guess people just want to know information on, what's the problem with parking in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I'm remembering a little bit more about this now. Sorry. I know right now parking is managed through our police department, and there's some, kind of frustration with kind of how we manage our parking, and there's a lot of time spent on parking downtown. So. And parking complaints. So I know the police chief has spent a lot of time dealing with this issue. We've also heard from the city commission and the business community that they want help with regard to downtown parking, especially during the holiday period. But I think, when Kathy says somebody, I think I asked for this, right, Kathy? So this is.
I think you did.
It was knowing that there's been a lot of fingers in the whole downtown parking piece. I thought, it'd be nice if we had a fact sheet that would. So Kathy's drafted this. I think it's in my email to review, but I haven't necessarily reviewed this. So this is just we're kind of a work in progress. It's a draft and something. The idea I had was to create something that might give some quick discussion points for city commissioners, for transportation advisory commissioners, people in the downtown, that businesses that get questions about parking, and but we really haven't shared this other than with you. This is definitely a draft and a work in progress. So. We think, I guess I personally think it's a good idea. It might help kind of make some clarifications for questions that seem to keep resurfacing often about parking.
Okay. Kathy, you turned in a form. Did you comment form?
And I entered it, request to speak,
Okay.
and I entered it, and so it's on your screen if you're on the floor. So I guess she then comes up, and we put her on a timer.
You get to use your time.
Can't get out either.
Do I start the timer, or does Blaine?
Kathy does.
This is practice. She
Yeah.
I started it.
Oh, okay.
I'm okay.
Thanks for coming. You're on.
Well, I would just like to. Kathy Roth, Oregon City, McLaughlin neighborhood. I would like to perhaps have you, as the Transportation Advisory Committee, consider re-looking at your downtown parking plan. I know it was adopted in 2010, and it was adopted with input from the merchants. Since 2010, we've had a lot of business changes down there and a lot of new merchants and certainly a lot more businesses. You know that.
Right.
And I would like to relate a story that happened to me last week. I don't ever drive downtown. I always walk. Last week, I had several friends meet me at Cypress at 4:30, which is time when people are still working. All four of them could not find a place to park. And then what they stressed was it is a long, long loop to go down Oregon City and to come back. If you see a spot somewhere, you can't get it. By the time you get back, one of the other persons had taken the first person's. So it was very distressing to me because each of these people came in and said to me, what's going on in Oregon City? Parking is horrible. And they all left the restaurant saying, we had a wonderful evening, wonderful food, but it's easier to go to Willamette.
Yep.
And that spoke volumes to me. So even though we've adopted this study, and it's a good study, I would hope that maybe we could take a look at it and maybe tweak it a bit, because something is very, very wrong with that when you have that many people in one gathering not able to find parking spaces. Thank you. And I stayed within my time limit.
You sure did. You didn't give me a chance to tap the. I was looking forward to that. No, yeah, you bring up a very good point, and I'm sure all of us here have heard similar stories. It's a seems to be a perennial problem here in Oregon City, and something that needs to be solved. As far as I can determine, there are lots of ideas and lots of plans. It all boils down to, to build a parking garage is $25,000 per spot and space, and my only response to that is, it's going to take a commitment on the part of the city, many stakeholders, and but there's an opportunity cost in not making that decision, and I just really feel very strongly that revitalization will not go forward as robustly as planned without some kind of a centralized parking garage where people know they can get a spot. But it seems to be a financial barrier. At least that's my take on it. John, any thoughts?
Well, I agree, and I think the city manager's made and the city commission has approved the idea of the city contributing $300,000 to towards that parking structure. And I think the way that offer's been made to Clackamas County, because our feeling is that the county is probably the biggest user of downtown parking, that we have in the downtown area. So recognizing that we need a partnership there, I think the city commission's been supportive of the idea of trying to get a solution there, but we know we can't do it on our own. It's really going to require the county to also come to the table with some.
I don't know if you've ever, and I'm just coming from my little myopic perspective, but if you've ever read the poem "Everybody, Somebody, Nobody, Anybody," and it's kind of and that's my sense of it, is I don't have a clear picture of who really is to be in the lead on this and championing the parking issue and pushing with the county and talking to them and setting up meetings and really get. Do you know who is the lead on that, or who should be the lead on that?
Well, I think what I heard from. I think the city manager brought the proposal to the city commission, and the city commission agreed that that the city manager should send a letter to the county lead manager at the county. Forget his title, but it feels like we've kind of provided that. Direction and leadership and understanding. It may take a little while for that to turn around.
Okay.
Probably some budget cycles. But I think the city's been taking some pretty aggressive steps to kind of move in that direction. But I do think it's going to take several groups. It might take someone beyond the county. It might take the Urban Renewal Agency. It might take downtown businesses to help drive that. I think it's a collaborative effort in order to ever see that built, and it's been a long time in coming. So that's the best answer I could give you, Blaine.
I'd be interested in your thoughts. Would do you think that? By the way, did you want to?
I wanted to add something too.
Sure.
I'm Kathy Roth-Regency. The lot that's down there now between the toy store and
Masonic.
Yeah, that lot. Something I think you guys should be aware of is that is for sale by the Lewis Estate, parts of it. And so
Nice.
I would hate to see us lose out on being able to purchase that as a parking structure site. So maybe with your recommendation or some part of your committee, you could look at that too.
Yes, thank you. That would be an ideal.
Where is that at, Kathy? I'm not sure.
Between the toy store and that parking lot that's down there. That's part of the Lewis Estate, and they're actively trying to liquidate their estate.
I have an entire memo on the Lewis parcels.
Yeah. And they're really trying to get rid of things. And so I would really not like to see that happen if we lose out our
What do you mean
chance.
you have a memo? Did you write one?
Yeah, I wrote one before they put
Thank
them
you,
up for
Kathy.
sale, when I heard they were going up for sale.
Oh.
Well, I'm open to what other committee members have thoughts on this, but would this be something that our committee could draft a letter to try and nudge this along a bit, or at least have a meeting with Mr. Frazier and get an update from him on where that's at? Any thoughts?
I don't see why we couldn't. The other thing we could do is just share with you a copy of the letter they sent. If you haven't seen that, that was a pretty strong letter. But I'm sure he'd be happy to provide a update. At our
But that
next-
might be the starting point,
maybe at
is
our
to,
November meeting again. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
if you were able to send that to us, that might help. Any other materials that you have, that's an important topic for our committee, and I think that.
Can you in the notes just kind of make sure that I should probably have that conversation with the city manager before I commit him to coming to a meeting, but he may have a different way of wanting to share that.
Sure. Yeah.
Any thoughts been given to the creation of a local parking district where people that would benefit from that type of use would pay the bill, so to speak? The merchants downtown are going to be the biggest beneficiary of that. And when Commissioner Roth refers to the Willamette area, that's a magnet for a lot of people. Just get out and walk about and what have you. Yeah. And the merchants over there are glad to see them come, but they have somewhat of a parking problem too. Whenever you're, in an automobile, you're going to have a parking problem. And then the other thing too, the upper level. We keep talking about downtown Oregon City, but there's room, it would seem to me, for a full block of parking with use of the elevator, the municipal elevator, and possibly something at the north end of town with a shuttle system or something of that nature, where a expensive building wouldn't be involved. Just
My sense is that the problem is been analyzed and reanalyzed, and staff has spent a lot of time on this parking issue.
Yeah.
And they've looked at. I mean, there's 2-hour parking on the hilltop now. Is a lot more prevalent than it used to be.
Yeah.
So, and there's two sides to this. There's the other side, which isn't excited about 2-hour parking or pay for parking. So it's use of the trolleys. There's it seems like there's kind of a combination of things, but in terms of the low cost options, I'm confident the city's taken every step it can to help eke out as many efficiencies in its parking as it can. But buying new property that would be available for parking or a structure, additional use of the trolleys. Those are kind of what it's boiling down to: costly investments.
yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'd just like to be sure that the process of looking into that property that's now available is pursued actively, because many times I've seen in many of the commissions, committees, whatever you may speak of, a lot of talk is put out there, but then no action ever takes place. And so in this particular case, where there may be more parking available because of the purchase of that property, I think we ought to aggressively follow it up.
There were actually 2 downtown lots. Okay, and an adjacent property owner wanted one, and we thought that we might be interested in the other. And I forwarded it to department directors, and I never heard anything else.
I don't remember that memo.
Well,
No.
I got it. I have it right here. I'm forwarding it to you.
Well, I would think that with a combination of the city's commitment, and combination of urban renewal bonding, maybe a revenue bond. Obviously, the parking lot is going to charge fees that could go toward that, and other partnership with the county. There should be a way to fund this, and it would be certainly a boost to the revitalization of our downtown and to the businesses. I think it would just be something that there's an opportunity cost that I think we're missing without really moving forward on this. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Commissioner Roth a question?
Certainly.
What impact would you think it would have on the commission if this body here made a recommendation to the commission to look into reviewing that, what we're talking about here in terms of that lot, just to look into it? I mean, we're just sort of spinning our wheels right now is
I know that
procedurally.
The commission always takes very seriously the recommendations of the committees that are out here charged with looking at the different things. So it means a lot to me personally, but I know it means to the other commissioners that you have spent time analyzing the problems and have made good recommendations. Often we have staff recommendations and they work very, very hard on those, but you're a broader body than, and I don't mean weight-wise, I mean just, you know.
What are you looking at me for?
But you have a wide expertise of people here on this group, and it's always good to me to hear from a very wide variety. Another thing I wanted to bring up was we have that parking lot at the end of the Oregon Trail, and in conjunction with bringing the trolley back into use, possibly for employee parking, if we could have employees park there, have them park there free, buy a trolley pass, and ride downtown to work. Just a thought.
That was actually an idea I had also, and that would also benefit some of the business owners downtown,
Exactly.
because I understand that some of them pay for their employees' parking when they take spots downtown, so that would be a win-win for everybody, except for no heaters in the winter.
We can give out little blankets, you know, like the airplanes
Yeah,
do.
there you go.
Did that answer your question, Mr. Mahoney?
Yeah, it does. I'd like to suggest that we make a motion to that effect and ask the commission to look into it and let them take the next step if it's a memo to the staff or a direction or whatever. But that would make it official coming from this body and give it a little impact and get things moving. That's what I'd suggest.
Any other thoughts on that? So you're suggesting, just so I understand it, you're suggesting that this committee move to ask the city commission to look into and get some substantive information about the purchase of that property.
Yeah, words to that effect, right?
Okay. And is that something that I just wanted to know in terms of sequence? Is that something that our city manager is working on, or?
I guess I'm not familiar with that. The one proposal that I know the city manager is working on is the lot at 12th and Main. The other parcels, I'm not so sure where that's at. I'd have to do some evaluation on that. And it sounds like Kathy knows quite a bit about that property. I just don't. So until I could look at that, but I guess this is we're talking about looking at trolley in November. Maybe parking in November might make sense too, and have an update on that. And at that November meeting, it seems like that would be the time, after hearing, what the options are from whether it be the city manager or someone who he designates who's most familiar with the downtown parking plan and the downtown parking. It's been a suggestion that we look harder at that downtown parking plan. Or property acquisition. So I think right now what I'm hearing is you'd like us to set that up and try it. I think we could target that November meeting to do that. To bring people here, and then you make your motion to seek out that property. Is that quick enough? I just don't know. I don't know how long that parcel's been for sale, but I think if nothing else, we'll have that conversation with the city manager and see how he wants to proceed with that. And maybe there's some email correspondence that says, hey, we need to take this on sooner.
Yeah.
I'd make the motion that we invite the city manager or his designee to come up to the November meeting and present whatever information they can pull together so that we can kind of make a meaningful decision about the acquisition of that lot or some of the other things. And we may or may not be timely enough for this one particular one, but we'd have that discussion about other things that may pop open downtown too.
Okay.
I'd put that in the motion form.
Yes.
Look for a second.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And I will talk to David as well and just see about what we can do on that, in terms of getting more information. Okay. Where are we at? Holcomb Boulevard. Sidewalk grant.
Right, so this is probably news since we met last, based on the date of the letter. Where's the date on this letter from the state?
There is no date. Those ODOT employees.
Well,
Just kidding.
my recollection is we learned about this this project being shortlisted on a grant application through I thought it was the Bike Ped, Bicycle Pedestrian Enhancement Grant, that was put together by your committee member Jonathan David and John. Were you involved in it as well? But
Very minor.
okay, Kathy, I know, was involved with it. So anyway, this application that you have in your packet was submitted, and it was approved to be shortlisted. So that shortlist includes 64 projects, so we're one of 64, and we're approved to go through to the second round. So that means that if we're truly able and wanting to pursue this grant, we need to submit an application by mid-December. I forget the date, in December 13th, I think is the date. So Jonathan David, who's not here, and John stopped in and talked to myself and Adam Crafts, who's kind of helping us look at this project, at the possibility of us actually submitting a application that would be successful in getting grant funding to complete basically sidewalks. So there's some mapping in here that shows the area we're talking about, but some form of additional sidewalks that help connect pedestrians that would be northeast of the grade school driveway. And there's some other infill areas along there as well. So the problem is just the timing and the fact that this necessarily wasn't in our work plan, but we're trying to figure out if we can meet that December 13th deadline with an application package that would be successful. And Jonathan seemed to, I guess the other piece is ODOT is supposed to meet with the city and talk about this before we submit. But I think Jonathan's had closer contact with the grant managers than well, I know he's had better contact than we have, and his feeling was a lot of the property acquisition that would be required to extend the sidewalks up Holcomb Boulevard would have to be obtained in form of easements, or more likely dedicated right-of-way. And there's been some discussion with the neighbors that would have to provide that, and it sounds like they're willing to donate that right-of-way. So for us, it's trying to figure out how to do all the steps that you might necessarily have to do in a timely fashion to have those ready to go. Mm-hmm. Or do we really need those? Do we really have to have an application that includes that dedication of right-of-way for the application? Or, does some form of that, is it going to, meet the expectations of the grant writers and be a project that would be considered favorably? So we're working through that. We met with, I don't know if any of you were involved in this. It's a Holcomb Boulevard Pedestrian Enhancement Concept Plan that was done in 2005. That's kind of been a guiding document, and we talked to Nancy Crushauer a little bit about this, and was a lot of community involvement, a lot of consensus on what they wanted along the boulevard. And so that's a helpful guidance document. There are some problems associated with it because of the topography on either side of the road, and how we would fit the kind of section that they proposed in this with travel lanes, bike lanes, sidewalks, street lighting, and so forth. So under normal conditions, that timeline is pretty intense, and it's given the fact that it's not necessarily in our work plan, we're struggling with trying to figure out how to make that work. And we've committed to meeting with John and Jonathan again next week, I think.
Friday, I think.
Yeah. So we met with the consultant who built this. We've talked to other survey consultants and right-of-way consultants, and just trying to figure out what might be an option. And we're wondering if there isn't an option. I guess the other thing is we put calls into the grant managers so we could get a better understanding for ourselves, aside from maybe what Jonathan knows, to determine if is there a project here that we can get that we can be successful with, or is there an application that we can be successful with? So we haven't ruled it out. We're just really realizing that to get connectivity, which really takes it from just southwest of the school entrance to the northeast, which gets it up to Winston Drive, which is quite a distance. That's a lot of effort there, and but there might be a small phase of that we could do, and maybe get the engineering completed. There's lots of ways that maybe this could move forward. The other little problem is the study called for curb type sidewalks with retaining walls on upstream or on the high side, and retaining walls on the downside, and in order to build those, we almost would have to do most of that section of the county road's got storm drainage ditches along the side of it. So in order to build that kind of a section, it also kind of rolls into a stormwater project. So part of what we discussed is there a pathway alignment that kind of puts it kind of well outside of the ditch that still kind of meets the needs, and can we get that kind of right away from the property owners? And I think the answer might be yes. But in thinking about this study and the effort that went into that, one of the questions that I had was, that's not what was in the study. The study was curb tight, and it was, more of a constrained road section. And if we, all of a sudden make the decision to move a pathway, if we're calling it temporary, I guess it probably would be okay. But if it's a permanent pathway that's different than this plan, and we had consensus on this plan, what do we do? What do we do with that kind of do we take it back to the neighborhood? Probably. That's probably the right thing to do. So, but that takes time, So still kind of with December 13th bearing down on us, how do we package that? So that's the update. Now, John, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Well, that's fine.
So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a question, just so you don't get with anything. On the, north.
can you come up? Can you come up here, please?
On the northwest corner, Kathy Roth, Oregon City. On the northwest corner of Winston and Holcomb,
Yes,
that piece of property is not in the city.
that's true.
So does that provide any problems?
Well, that's provided one little problem in that Jonathan and John both asked if we could find out information about who was in that home.
She just died.
Right. They knew that as well. So I haven't been able to get a contact person. I think it's in an estate, and there may be
It's for sale by her children at this point.
Yeah. So if you know anything about how to connect them, I'm struggling to figure that out. That would be helpful, because I think they'd like to make connection. And I've checked with both Clackamas River Water, because they're served by Clackamas River Water, and our water utility building, which turned out we don't serve them. So I have yet to find a name and number. And I think given the fact that the neighborhood is making face-to-face contact with these is it phone calls or face-to-face, John?
When Jonathan and I went out, it was face-to-face. I don't know when Don Slack went out. He talked to one large property owner. I think that was face-to-face as well.
So
I
yeah,
know all of
even
those.
even if we had a phone number, that would be helpful, because that's what they were. That's what I've been asked to get. So yeah, if you have
I can
that,
do
that'd
that.
be great.
She was my kid's bus driver for many, many years.
Oh,
Kathy, can you just keep coming to these meetings, because your input's
We have room on the committee. Yeah, no more committees.
It's who you know.
And who put together this this grant proposal?
Jonathan did.
Jonathan
It's a
must have-
tremendous amount of work.
That was his specialty in Gresham, so he's got some background in that.
Excellent work. Yeah.
yeah. Well, we like that.
Kudos to
We
Jonathan.
like that kind of background.
Yes.
Okay. Let's see where we're at.
So the last item
Yep, pavement
is the
cut
pavement cut
standards.
standards. This has gone before the city commission. It's been it's going before. There's a ordinance and a resolution. The ordinance second reading is next city commission meeting, and there'll be a resolution that will be adopted as well. This is something we've talked about in this committee for a long time, and it was a fairly significant amount of work that went into this. We used a consultant to help us kind of get to a standard that we could talk about, and so I brought this to you before. And it's been edited from the last time we brought it, and kind of tweaked a little bit to make it so that we could do a good job with implementation, and that our attorneys could look at it and feel comfortable with it. So what you have before you is what the City Commission has, they did the first reading of the ordinance, and we're pretty happy about it. We're now trying to make sure we can figure out how to implement it in a way that our staff, it's got some complexities to it, because it definitely, it's a pavement cut policy that values the type of street it is, whether it's an arterial collector or residential street. It also values the age. So if it's a recently,
This one?
resurfaced project, then we require a different kind of a patch than if it's an old street that's already kind of fallen apart. So, but to have that kind of information with regard to age and street classification.
That's okay.
It's just some new processes that we haven't necessarily had our front and counter staff have to deal with. So we got to figure out how to make that easy, so that if any applicant, if you're, for instance, want to do a sewer tap or something like that, you'll have a better understanding. If it's in a new street, you'll understand what those requirements are about.
So this will build some uniformity and give your department or the paving department, ways to evaluate projects and prioritize them. And
This is really a standard. It says if you cut into our street,
okay,
you're going to do this. And, if it's a new street, you're going to do a lot more than if it's an old street.
got it.
And that's what this is about. And then the resolution was an additional item that made it so before changing our standard in this particular category, required us to go before the City Commission with an ordinance and have two readings, just like we're doing with this. And so we hope to, that part of the ordinance and part of the approval was that we'd be bringing them a resolution, and that's coming next meeting, that would allow us to edit these standards, because standards need to be edited at kind of a lesser level. It would be done by resolution as opposed to through an ordinance.
So utilities will have to follow this.
Right, they will.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, what have we been using before?
We had a small section in our design and construction standards that required a 6-inch T-cut. So in other words, if you're digging a trench, you would overcut that by 6 inches on all sides. And it's just not been adequate. So you see trench failures all the time in those kind of situations. So now, for instance, especially if you're in a new street, you build your trench, and we might require you to go several feet out, and we'd rather have it be more like a 2-inch mill. So if it's a nice thick section of pavement, instead of having a vertical cut that water can drop through, you've got a mill out here, and so all that would be kind of a surface area that water would not be likely to penetrate, because
It's kind of like what they're doing on Holcomb Boulevard now.
Holcomb Boulevard, exactly. We're kind of milling out sections like that. We're not necessarily digging trenches, but there's a variety of things we're doing on Holcomb Boulevard.
So this standard, is this pretty typical in other municipalities, or is this kind of groundbreaking?
We did use some examples that we found in Snohomish County in Washington, but not a lot in Oregon. So I would say we were looking for a standard that was easy to implement and understand. I'm going to say the city of Beaverton has a pretty complex standard that I think gets them to the same kind of place, but we tried to simplify that so that it wasn't too hard to understand and too hard to implement. Okay. So other cities have better standards than we do with regard to patching, but I don't know that they are necessarily exactly what we have. This was a hybrid of several. We picked what we really liked out of several examples. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then you had a few items that you wanted to add to the agenda, John?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that I was out on my mountain bike riding through some of the backcountry trails of Oregon City and got into some blackberry shrubs, and my tire went flat about out at Main Street Extension out near the bike path out there, and I could pump it up and then ride a little ways and pump it up and ride a little ways, but it would have been a real bummer to go all the way to my house, which is up off of South End Road, and it was pretty late in the day, and I thought about First City Cycles and stopped by there, and it was after hours, but they were kind of closing out the till, and I kind of banged on the window, and they came over and let me in, and I gave them my problem, and they proceeded to invite me in and say, "Oh yeah, we'll fix it for you real quick. It may be and it was a fairly simple fix. They gave me a new tire tube and put it back together for me. They asked me if I had any money with me, and fortunately I had. I told him, I said, you know what, I think I have $10 right now, and he says, that's good enough. And
what?
I can't. Yeah. So anyway, I had a nice conversation with Rick. Is it Rick Hanbury?
Rick Hanbury.
And Adam Bukowski.
Bukowski, yeah.
And they're Blaine's employees. Anyway, I thought they did an outstanding job. We talked a lot about mountain biking and trying to get out and trying to develop mountain biking in the areas. Mm-hmm. But so they were good advocates for that. But anyway, I still owe Blaine $7. So I wanted to pay because the bill was like $17.
Oh boy!
So there you go.
Thank you, sir. Boy, that's great. Look at that. Duly noted. Wow. All right. And I do need to correct. I get this wrong every time. It's Bukowski. He says not a cow, and it's not cough. It's Kovsky. So it's a hard name to get, but those gentlemen are just top drawer. They're just great employees.
Well, they've tuned up my bike, and now they've replaced my tire. And they're always friendly. And anyway, it's a good place to go. So appreciate that. The Holcomb Boulevard in-house paving project, I just wanted to acknowledge that that's in-house work. That's our own crews that we're using to do that. The idea there is we had hoped to utilize the county's forces to put chip seal on Holcomb Boulevard. The county has elected not to do chip seal this year, so they're kind of focusing on some other kind of work. And we've been noticing that trend with the county, is rather than doing everything each summer, they kind of pick a specialty. And so we're hoping they're going to do chip sealing next year. And in the meantime, we're trying to patch failed areas along Holcomb, so it looks like kind of a quilt. I get that. And but it's also a kind of an accepted approach to go in and mill out a problem area and pave it back. We also got some crack sealing to do. So our crew's been pretty diligent about that. With this transition, I'm not as closely in tune to what exactly they're doing. So if some of you on Holcomb could probably tell me more. Are they still up there, or are they?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's a long boulevard, and there's a lot to fix up there. So
they're doing good work, though.
Wanted to let
you know. They really are controlling the traffic well.
That's good.
Yeah, they're
That's
not
good.
allowing any big holdups from one end or the other.
That's good. Yeah. Kevin Hanks and Matt Paulson are kind of leading that effort, and they've really done a great job with our little in-house paving crew. So
well, they got my kudos.
Good. Good, that's important, Bob. The McLaughlin Boulevard Phase 2 project, Alita, that's an Alita Froman Goodrich project, and she is doing an outstanding job with that, where Phase 2 is from really Clackamas River Bridge to Dunes Drive. And there's some other pieces to that, and we had a kickoff meeting with ODOT yesterday, and like I said, I think there was probably 20 different consultants and ODOT staff in the room, and we're looking at a couple of things that have yet to kind of develop, and will probably further progress as that project. But we're looking there's some gateway improvements that are suggested out of that, some lanes, making sure we've got accommodation for bike and ped along that section to the degree we can. I mean, it's pretty constrained because the same thing, it's elevated and got steep slopes on either side of that. But street lighting, so boulevard enhancements similar to what we did on the section of McLaughlin Boulevard between 205 and 10th Street. So big project, fair amount of process, and it's just jumping into the design phase. So
It's encouraging.
This kind of brewed up a little bit today. There's ODOT has asked us if we would support sharrows, which are the arrows on Main Street. You see them on Main Street right now, which tell the driver that they need to support and look out for bicycles. So it's a shared use. Sharrows is the term. And anyway, we got an email from ODOT saying that they were asking if the city would support the idea of using sharrows on the bridge. And my first response was, of course. But I thought, again, bring it to this committee so that we could kind of get get you folks to have some consensus on whether or not that was the right thing to do, and maybe get a motion out of you. I did get several. One of the consultant who did the two-way conversion of Main Street was Don Arambula. Do you remember the name of that firm, Kathy? Crandall Arambula. Yeah, they did the two-way analysis study, and he was at this morning's ribbon cutting ceremony for Main Street and asked about that, and asked whether or not the city was going to advocate for that. And we told him, we thought that was a good suggestion, and he went back and found out, my email address, and asked several of the biking advocates to submit emails on that. So I have 4 that I'd be happy to share with you. I just printed off a single copy, but they're basically all suggesting that sharrows is a good idea on the bridge, and I agree with them. So
does that create a legal? In other words, coming down the Arch Bridge from West Lynn to Oregon City, that's a pretty straightforward. I mean, bikes can keep up with traffic flow, but if the sharrow says you can take the full lane if you want, right, dead center, going from Oregon City to West Lynn, that could create an issue, I would think. Is that illegal? What have they talked about that?
It's a shared lane usage, so it has the potential to slow traffic.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm all for it, obviously, but I think there could be some frustration with that on some of the parts of some of the drivers. And the sidewalk is awkward, especially if you have pedestrians walking there, and it's not really wide enough to navigate. So I support it, but I I can see potential.
Bicycles use it or have used it anyway, so it's more a matter of a reminder to the driving public that they are required to share the lane, and the sidewalk is really too narrow for bicycles.
Mm-hmm. So would you like a motion?
We've got John over here raising his hand.
So are there some other pros and cons? I'm not familiar with the legal question that you asked, which is very good. And if you put them in and it's not working, you can just pull them out, right?
They,
The
yeah, they
Sharrows.
could-
I mean,
they
they're
could
just
markings.
markings on the pavement, so.
Right, they're pavement markings.
Right, so if it turned
they're not
out to be-
permanent.
If it
They'd
turned
have
out to be a big problem, you could just eliminate them, right?
That's true. That's true. But I think that the issue is bicycles are going to use that anyway. So, you know, the problems associated with bicycles, unless we're going to prohibit bikes on there, and that's never been suggested. So this is just another indicator that to the driver that, you know, bicycles have a right to be there.
If there are two cars meeting, is there any space for a bicycle yet on the side? It's a pretty narrow bridge, so.
No, there's not room for a bicycle and two vehicles.
Not enough room to two pickups.
What
With
about,
mirrors.
and TriMet Bus, are they going to be back on the bridge again?
Well, we're not sure that TriMet, yeah, as far as I've heard, TriMet is going to, have you heard any different? They're going to avoid the use of the bridge.
I was told that they've rerouted and they're not going back.
Yeah, that's what we've heard as well.
Right.
Yes.
You know, this is a request from ODOT,
Yes,
so they would be responsible for repainting in the future.
yes, it's their facility. Actually, it was, I think at first ODOT wasn't certain that they were supportive of the idea, and I think they've heard a fair amount of concern about not placing them there, so I think they're committed to doing it. And they're just asking for city buy-in.
Would this be the full length of the bridge or just at the entrances? These
Oh,
sure.
we haven't talked about how often they place them, so I don't know. I don't know what the spacing requirements would be.
Is this something the driver would recognize as being bicycle oriented?
It's becoming an industry standard, so they should.
Okay.
It's part of the MHTCD, so it's a standard
It's like
treatment.
a bicycle with chevrons on it, you know. That,
Oh.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah, so that's,
Could we have signs on each side like you have up by Warren and Millie Road, share the road? You know,
Well, I think part of the problem is you got this nicely completed bridge. Nobody's excited about putting signage up on that bridge. So, I mean, really the right way to do it is to put it on the pavement.
Yeah.
It just means that there's some replacement costs associated with that legend, the Sharrow legend, you know. But
well, it'll be well used. We've had just a number of people from West Lane saying, boy, we can't wait for that bridge to be open, you know, because they just don't come to Oregon City on their bicycles because of the bridge closure, so.
now, a person can walk their bicycles along
That's true.
the pedway, especially if they think, you know, which I think is a good idea if you can't really keep up with traffic. But no, there's not
Wait,
that option.
It'll happen. It'll happen. I was the first.
Love to tell about it. Okay, and then you, is that any other comments? Do you need a motion from us?
I would like one.
Okay,
I'd like to motion that we approve that since the bikers are going to be doing it anyway. We might as well make it official.
all right, so we have a motion to approve the Sharrows on the Arch Bridge. Second,
I'll second it.
all right, and any discussion?
Well, I think that, I think it's unsafe for bicycles a lot on that bridge, but TriMet's not gonna be on there with the buses. I guess it's a little bit safer
Yeah.
for bicycles.
Well, and as John pointed out, you know, that if there's, you know, public outcry or you know, significant pushback, it's something that can be easily, you know, rethought or changed. So,
There's no other place for them to go across the
That's-
Willamette, is there?
No, there isn't.
I think it's safer for them to walk.
Yeah, yeah. But they're not going to. They're going to use
No.
it anyway, like you
yeah,
say,
they
right?
will.
Yeah.
the heaviest traffic's coming down, so it can be bypassed.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I ride a fair amount. I don't know that I'd think twice if I was going to slow traffic down. I think I would probably walk my bike across there. But I
We're
don't know.
going to slow traffic down on the uphill side.
That's what I mean. On the downhill
On the
side,
downhill side.
no problem. But I don't know if I can keep up with the traffic on the way up. So I would probably walk. But I'm sure there's bicyclists that, you know.
Well, if you had a carbon fiber,
There you go.
this will be a start. Okay, well, very good. We have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Then the last item I had was the ODOT passenger rail Eugene to Portland project. I went to, I think, Kathy, did we send out a link or information on this? It's not in the packet, so I can't remember if we.
I did. I sent it. I thought you wanted me to just put it on their agenda, but you wanted me to send it out to them, so I sent it out to them. I believe it was the day of
Yes, you did.
the Oregon City event. But I did tell you about the one in Lake Oswego.
Well, I attended the one in Lake Oswego because I think there was I think it was a city commission work session. September 11th was a city commission work session, I think. So anyway, I couldn't make that meeting in Oregon City, and I heard it was well attended. The Lake Oswego one was also well attended, and so this project is really about trying to get input from the public. So right now they're kind of in the public involvement phase of trying to get passenger rail between Eugene and Portland, and looking at several. I mean, there's lots of routes right now, so they're looking for input. But one that's along pretty much the I-5 corridor. They're all along the corridor, but one that stays very close to I-5 or in the median between the north and southbound lanes of I-5. One that kind of goes through all the small towns between Salem and Aurora that kind of hits several stops along there. And the other one's more on the west side between Corvallis and Donald, I suppose. So that's and then there's also some alternates that bring rail through Lake Oswego on the Willamette. I don't know, it's Willamette trolley line. Yeah, Willamette Shoreline, and then one that brings it through Canby and Oregon City and along the existing track alignment there. So, they're looking for specifics. What do you know about a particular area that you think they ought to avoid, or what you think about environmental impacts? How much emphasis should be on, speed versus environmental impacts, or regulation versus the frequencies, so they're even asking questions about how frequent these rail lines should run. So it's a pretty broad request for information. And the other piece, since the Oregon City and the Lake Oswego open houses are over, and the others are all, they're all over. September 19th, there's one more in Springfield, but there's an online option where you can provide feedback as well. And let's see if I can participate in our online open house at www.oregonpassengerrail.org. And there's just a few days left in that as well. So, I think, the impact in Oregon City could be fair, but I also sense that it's a good, it would bring potential rail passengers to Oregon City. It'd be a good service for Oregon City residents. And so I don't know where the city officially stands on this, but I think it's going to be a discussion item. I know the mayor asked me to present an update to them at their meeting tomorrow night. So,
Is there a possibility that they don't go through Oregon City?
yeah, there's one alignment that, like I said, goes through Lake Oswego and crosses the Willamette River, further south.
What would happen to all that investment down there at the depot that the city's invested in? Would that just die on the vine?
Well, there's still Amtrak, and there's still so there's still the Amtrak runs. This is more of a commuter line,
Oh, okay,
specific to
okay.
Eugene
All right.
and Portland. and the areas in between. But yeah, I think having that investment there is another reason why we ought to advocate for a stop in Oregon, or the route through Oregon City.
My question was, for several years, the state has been participating in, I'll call it an experiment, where they brought in those Spanish Talgo trains to supplement the trains, Amtrak trains. So there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 a day that run that. Did they talk in this meeting at all?
What are
about-
they? What were they, John? I'm not. They're
You'll see a train go through here that looks like a typical Amtrak train, but you'll see another one that's shorter with an engine at each end and has much smaller cars. They're not those 2-story cars, and that's a Spanish Talgo train. It can go a lot faster than anything they allowed to go on this right now. So my question was, I think the state's been experimenting with that between Eugene all the way up to Vancouver, BC, and did they talk at all about whether there was success in building ridership or whatever when they did talk about that, or is this something completely different?
I don't recall seeing that conversation, but something about that train type rings a bell for me.
They're kind of red, aren't they?
Wasn't
Really?
Yeah,
Was there an article in the Oregonian about ridership 6 months ago? I saved that.
I mean, you're ringing a bell, but I didn't see that at the open house, John. So that doesn't mean that, they're on. I didn't go online to actually see what. Actually, I did go online because I sent Kathy a link, but I
Oregonian
didn't.
article on Amtrak
So
in March, and they talked about, and it was really inexpensive, and people would catch the train. They'd drive up from Malala, and they'd catch the train here and spend just a little bit of money and go into downtown Portland.
Yeah.
It was like
Right.
$30 a month.
Right.
this is, and that's a segment of it. This is much larger than that because the federal government has got some high-speed rail proposals across the country, and this is the one in the Northwest. And so this is being tested or groomed for high-speed rail. Those Talgo trains will go over 150 miles an hour, but
Can you pronounce
because of
that
the
again?
track situation, they only go like 79 or something like that.
Can you pronounce that? You said
Talgo,
Talgo?
Talgo, I think.
Yeah, this is an Amtrak commuter rail.
Now, I've actually taken it because when I lived in Corvallis, you could just go over to Albany, and the trains coming north were always on time because they started in Eugene. And a son-in-law's taken it too, so he rides his bike from Corvallis to Albany, hops on the train, because we pick him up at the depot here, or he rides his bike up to our house. So they're nice. They're different. They're much more like a commuter train than something like you'd see with Amtrak. But so that would be super. They should put a special train on for that.
Well, again, I didn't see anything on that particular, the type of train. It was more like frequencies. How does it impact freight? What's the route? Mostly about route. So, I encourage you to go on and answer their questionnaire.
And that's here on this handout that you gave us, the website.
Right here.
Okay, good. Second page.
Yes.
That's right there.
Yeah. Right. Perfect. Okay.
That's it for me.
Well, very good. Thank you, John. Appreciate all your information. Any other items for discussion? All right, then. Thanks for everybody's work. We're dismissed. We're adjourned.